glorious geeks. I am especially excited for my geek this month because she's my friend and Iranian-American women's rights activist and political journalist Masih Alinejad. Masih has been fighting for women's rights in Iran, particularly by trying to get rid of the mandatory hijab, which is the headscarf women in Iran are required by law to wear to cover their hair. She's the author of the book The Wind in My Hair and also the founder of My Stealthy Freedom, which promotes women struggling for their rights in Iran. And she also created the campaign #White Wednesdays to share the stories of women fighting against gender laws in Iran. I've had Masih on my crush list before, since she's obviously fabulous, but this time we talked about a crazy story that just happened to her. This summer, she learned from the FBI that the Iranian government was plotting to kidnap her from her home in Brooklyn, New York. They had this ridiculous plot where they were going to shove her in a car, then take her to Venezuela by speedboat, and then fly her to Iran. And it sounds like something from a Hollywood movie, but this was for real, and it's her life, and it was going to happen in the United States, where people who exercise free speech should be safe. I was also lucky to have Masih on, because Iran talks recently resumed, and although they basically ended with little to show, there's still a desire among all the parties to pursue negotiations and revive the nuclear deal. So given her experiences, and as someone who understands the Iranian government, I asked her what her message to the US government is as it considers these talks.
Hi, Masih. It is so good to see you. I am so excited to have you as my Geek of the Month.
Hi, I'm so happy being with you again.
Oh, well, I am the one who is lucky to have you. You are the ultimate geek. Your story literally symbolizes why activism is so important, why we cannot take our foot off the pedal when it comes to going after authoritarian regimes, how scary and confident they can be. So I want to, there's a lot of news right now related to the Iran deal, obviously, and Iran talks that are taking place in Vienna as we speak. But I want to take a step back first. If you could share with everybody what you went through over the summer. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So you want me to talk about the kidnapping plot?
Yes.
Oh my God. In summer, actually, I have to say that when the FBI came to my house and saying that, you're not safe, I didn't take them serious, because as an Iranian activist, we are used to receive death threats every day. But the FBI actually told me that this is different. The regime in Iran, they hired private investigator in Brooklyn, New York, and they were filming my movement. They were taking photos of my life, my private life, my husband, my garden, my stepchildren. And that was quite scary. So that's why they told me that we're going to move you to the safe houses. We went to different safe houses. Their plan was to kidnap me from New York, grab me to speedboat to Venezuela, which I would love to go to Venezuela, but not in that way. And then they were trying to kidnap me from Venezuela to Iran. And for many of you, maybe it's like a scary movie. It's like part of a fiction book. But for many of us Iranians, taking hostage, kidnapping, murdering, it's our daily life. We know that this is in the DNA of the Islamic Republic. This is the nature of the Islamic Republic. And it happened to another colleague of mine just last year. They kidnapped Ruhollah Zam from France to Iraq, and then kidnapped him from Iraq to Iran. Then they executed him. And I have to say that for 42 years, according to Bromant Institution, there were more than 500 people got kidnapped, assassinated, killed, or target of the being kidnapped, not in Iran, in the European countries, in the US. And that actually shows you that the Islamic Republic is not just killing its own opponents within the society. They are assassinating and targeting their own dissidents outside Iran as well. So that is not only about me. This is about Americans. And the Iranian government tried to challenge the US authorities on US soil. That's really scary. That's really scary that they can do it whenever they want and wherever they want.
You hit the nail on the head with this one, because as you know, with Oh My World, with my brand, the thing that I keep trying to tell people, the message I keep trying to convey is this stuff matters to you, a regular American. You may not feel it. We're so isolated here. There's a big body of water between us and everybody else. But in reality, when you have dictators and authoritarian leaders and human rights abusers across the pond, whatever happens there affects us very much over here. And we can't behave like we're safe, like we can do whatever we want and that there won't be repercussions. And, you know, the thing that I want to get at here is, first of all, the fact that they went after you this way first shows this really quite brazen confidence, right? So why do you think they had that kind of level of confidence to do something like that? Do they just think that they're not going to get punished?
That's a very good question. I'm going to tell you why. Because for many years, taking hostage, kidnapping dissidents, killing opposition, killing its own people, even arresting dual national citizens was like a diplomacy for the Islamic Republic, diplomatic tactic for the Islamic Republic, and they've been rewarded. They haven't been punished. Then they say, why should we change our policy when no one actually take it serious? Right now that I'm talking to you, the US citizen is in Iranian prison, the UK citizen, French citizen, Swedish citizen, German citizen, British citizen, and they're all being used like bargaining chip for the deal, for money. So when the regime in Iran see that the US government and the Europeans are desperate to get a deal, instead of getting united and ask the Islamic Republic and punish them and tell them that release all the innocent dual national citizens, they're just desperate to get a deal. Then why should they change their policy? You know, and I want to tell you that there is a famous saying that anything happens in Vegas, it's going to stay in Vegas. But anything happening in the Middle East is not going to stay in the Middle East. It's not about Iranian people. As far as the Islamic Republic is in power, you are not safe in America. I'm an American citizen right now. They were trying to kidnap me. You think it was just because of me? No, they were sending a signal to the US government. And when they are not being punished enough, when the European country and the US government, they don't take a strong action, of course they're going to do that again. And then another thing which is bothering me a lot, that many people actually saying that, you know, you're safe miles away. Now you see this dictatorship are in power. Then why you ask Iranian women to send you videos or to remove their hijab, or the mothers of those victims who are in Iran, why you tell them to speak up? So you see, even they blame me instead of blaming the regime who killing people, who arresting people. Some of the Western media even put the blame on me and saying that, so you see, this is the kind of regime, then why you ask Iranian people to speak up? This is 21st century. This is not me should feel guilty. You have to make those who kill us feel guilty. Those who lashes women should feel guilty, you know? Those who actually put the innocent women in prison just because of saying no to compulsory hijab, those should feel guilty. Those government who kill protesters and then arrest their family because of saying, who killed my son, who killed my daughter, simply asking for justice, they are in prison right now. Those should feel guilty. And that's a lot of people telling me that you're not scared of the government. No, I'm not scared of the government. What is the scariest thing for me is the whole world is watching the Iranian government doing that in 21st century, killing people and asking their family to keep silent. That is the most scariest thing in the world, that they're watching this happening.
You know, you said the thing that is the most terrifying. I agree with you. It's this complacency. And for somebody to tell you, you know, to imply that this is your fault, or like, why would you do this, right? Why would you put yourself in this position? And if that's the majority of what people are saying, then we have a lot of minds to change, because bending to these regimes and authoritarian governments is exactly what they want, right? They want people to be so scared that they don't speak up, that they don't fight.
And not only that, the regime in Iran wants you to be scared first. And then they want you to feel guilty. Like, when they took my brother and they put him in prison for 2 years, they were trying to make me feel guilty. When they arrested Women of White Wednesday's campaign, where I lead the campaign, where women, taking the white headscarf, moving their headscarf as a flag of freedom and protesting against compulsory hijab, they arrested. And right now that I'm talking to you, 5 Women of White Wednesday's campaign are in prison. Many times I hear that from the apologists, from some of the journalists saying that, don't you feel guilty now? And that is what the regime wants you to do, that to feel guilty, to feel miserable. I always tell myself that I have only 2 options: to feel miserable, feel guilty, and be scared, or make my oppressors feel guilty. And I choose the second one. I don't want the regime think that I'm going to give up my fight. I only give up my fight the day when Iranian people within the society stop fighting against dictatorship. That's all.
That's right. We need to fight for change. This is how you fight for change. And if we don't do it, then change won't come. It'll only become worse. Which comes to my next point. If we could shift a little to the Iran talks. So you had Iran talks that are taking place this week in Vienna. And so I want to know, given your experience, what you've gone through, the perspective that you have, not just as an Iranian-American and someone who knows really inside and out the Iranian government, but also as somebody who basically survived a kidnapping plot by the Iranian government while being here in the United States. What message do you have to the US government as they seek to pursue negotiations with the Iranian government?
Look, we all know that Biden administration are really seek to have a deal with Iran. They're going to stick with their own strategy. But I have to say that for millions of people within the society who are watching this, it's very, very important that human rights should not be buried under nuclear deal. To me, actually, I know that the Islamic Republic is not a kind of regime that could be trusted. When they use their guns and bullets, when they use their Revolutionary Guards to suppress any protest in Iran, when they kill their own protesters, when actually they, do not even allow a peaceful movement happen. Recently, people in Isfahan, they were actually protesting against the water shortage. What happened? They used guns and opened fire at them. Many of them, they lost their eyesight. So this kind of regime cannot be trusted. So what I want to send a message to the Biden administration and European countries that where is the human rights? Why don't you stand for your own principle? If you want to lift up all the sanctions, you have to stick with your own principle and keep those Magnitsky sanction, targeted sanction, and you have to attach conditions about human rights. Otherwise, the history will judge you. And most important than this, if you do not stand with the people of Iran in their challenge with their dictators, you have to deal with extremist Islamists here in the US, in the European countries. And the history actually shows you that when you actually put pressure on dictators, when you take a strong action, it works. But if you reward them and you just abandon people, it's not going to work, and you're going to be the main target. That's all I can say.
I mean, I hope they're listening to you, and I think that we've heard that they are pessimistic about the negotiations because of the demands the Iranian government is making, and frankly, the way the Iranian government is behaving with its nuclear program. And that could be scary for other reasons. But the fact of the matter is that the Biden administration has said that they're going to put human rights as the central tenet of their foreign policy, right? And so I'm hopeful. I haven't seen it yet, right? I mean, we have to judge them by their actions.
I'm not hopeful, and I'm going to tell you why. Look, the Islamic Republic is one of the most unstable regime, and they make the whole region unstable, and this is how they survive. So when I see that, like many politicians around the world, the Western politicians, the Biden administration, they are quiet about what happened in Iran protests, where 1,500 people got killed, and what happened to the Ukrainian airplane. 176 innocent passengers got killed by Iranian Revolutionary Guard. The whole world kept silent about this when it comes to nuclear deal. So it means that they're really desperate to have a deal, and they really care about having business, and they bury human rights on their nuclear deal. That is why I'm not hopeful, but I strongly believe that human rights organizations and true feminists and people like you and many other people who care about the universal, like the Western values, the human rights values, they are going to give a hard time to Biden administration and all the European countries when they ignore human rights. I actually, in my meeting with White House, the previous one, and the Biden administration, I said that in all the conditions, we don't see anything about human rights. You cannot separate human rights from nuclear deal, because then you're allowing the regime to make the whole region unstable. If you're really looking for stability in the region, you cannot just negotiate with one of the most unstable regime without considering human rights.
I agree with you, clearly. Well, I hope that they're listening, and I hope that they take your advice on that. Well, Masih, listen, thank you. I've taken up so much of your time. I am so grateful to have you as this month's geek. You are the best geek, and you're just so brave. And I really believe your work will result in change. I think that people are listening to your message, and I hope that we see better days soon for the Iranian women and for U.S.-Iranian relations, of course.
Thank you so much. I'm sure that millions of people within the society in Iran, millions of people within the society in Afghanistan, they are actually asking the whole world to hear them and to be their voices. But we're not going to wait for them to come and save us. We're going to get rid of the Islamic Republic and Taliban. And it's going to be a shame for all those democratic countries who keep silence and do not support us. Thank you so much.
Masih is absolutely amazing and just such an inspiration. Also, I'm kind of obsessed with her hair. Make sure to follow Masih Alinejad on Instagram and Twitter, and follow the hashtag White Wednesdays to see these brave women fight for their rights in Iran. And if you want to support her work, buy her book called The Wind in My Hair, and check out her organization called My Stealthy Freedom.